quick Steve Levy note. Anyone that ever is having any type of event, like charity event or whatever, he should be the guy that hosts it or MCs it. He should be the guy. Because multiple times I went to Garth Brooks' charity thing and Steve hosted it, and he was phenomenal. Just absolutely awesome. And so when they said, who do we want to talk about or talk with in terms of Stanley Cup final and hockey, I'm like, Steve. I like Steve. I talk with Steve. I don't really know these other guys, so let's bring on Steve, which is what we're doing. Steve is the host of ESPN's NHL studio show, The Point, and intermissions throughout the Stanley Cup final, which continue with Game 4 on Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern on ABC and ESPN+. Steve, great to see you. Great to talk with you. Are you still doing that gig? Are you still hosting the Garth Brooks thing?
Well, certainly whenever he invites me, it's so funny you bring up Garth because I get up here to Edmonton and the first thing I see is this giant mural and it's got all the Oilers players, McDavid and Draisaitl. In the middle of it is Garth Brooks in an Oilers sweater playing the guitar. And so, of course, I sent him the picture and he's so cool. He got right back to me. That's a fun game for your friends to play, Ross, right? Like, who's the most famous guy in your phone or famous person in your phone? And Garth Brooks is definitely the most famous person on my phone. And it's pretty cool when he texts me back. So,
you know what's funny, Steve? I am more and more into country music every year than I used to be. But before, when I wasn't into country music really at all, it was more my wife. When I tell them that I sang on stage at the Grand Ole Opry with Trisha Yearwood and Garth Brooks, they look at me like that's the greatest thing a human being could do. I was like, oh, yeah, no, I just told Trisha Yearwood that I liked her song. She's in love with the boy. And next thing I know, I'm on stage with Garth Brooks on guitar. That was awesome, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, so I remember that too. And I remember the people in Nashville saying, we were eating dinner on the stage, right? That's how big a deal it was. And the people like it, that stage is all-time stuff. Like, you don't get it's like the Stanley Cup. You don't touch it unless you win it. Like, you don't get to be on the stage unless you're an all-time country superstar. And there we were having dinner on the stage. That's one of the all-time special nights for sure.
Yeah, that was, and the night before we were at Garth's barn, wherever that was phenomenal. Absolutely loved it. I'm not loving, Steve, that Florida won again last night. I was really hoping for a bunch of different reasons, right? Like, I want it to be a longer series. There's nothing like a Game 7 in playoff hockey. I guess maybe there's a dumb question, but are the Panthers just that much better than the Oilers?
I think they are. I think just from top to bottom. And I think we knew they were the better team going in, but that Edmonton had the higher level talent. We waited a long time. We waited 9 years to see Connor McDavid play for the Stanley Cup, and here he is. And the Panthers are just all over him. They're such a good defensive team. The best part about this is, the hockey world that maybe casual fans that didn't realize are learning some new players. It's not just Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. It's about Sasha Barkov, the captain of the Florida Panthers, who right now, him and Sergei Bobrovsky will be the favorites, I think, for the Conn Smythe Trophy, which is the playoff winner, which is something the NHL does really cool. It's not the Stanley Cup Final MVP. The MVP of the entire playoffs is what they do in hockey. So it's all 4 rounds, and those two players have been dominant. And really, they're the two reasons that they've taken McDavid and the Oilers out of the series. They've been that good defensively, and Barkov scores another goal last night. I mean, he's just so skilled. And the Panthers are a terrific story, but yes, I think we're all disappointed. This screamed 6 or 7 games going into the series, and now it looks like it'll be over much quicker than that.
Has it changed, Steve, in the sense that it used to be like, okay, if you had Gretzky, you're going to win. If you had Mario Lemieux, you're going to win. If you have Crosby, you're going to win. The Oilers have McDavid, and they're not going to win. Has the sport changed, or have they just not done a good enough job surrounding him with guys so that they do win?
It's more. It's not all the forwards fault. I think it is the ultimate team sport, and I think you could draw parallels to football. But in basketball, with 5 guys on the court or women on the court, you can have one superstar or definitely 2 and win a championship. And clearly, it doesn't work that way in hockey. The checking in a series, the locking down of a star in a series does happen all the time. But then you should be eliminating some of the best players from the other team, and that's where your secondary scoring comes from. So the big five for the Edmonton Oilers, so McDavid and Draisaitl, Hyman, the Nuge, and the defenseman, Bouchard, their five top offensive players have accounted for 0 goals so far in the Stanley Cup final. And so, it's nice to get chip-in scoring from guys you don't normally expect to do it. McLeod gets a deflection goal last night for Edmonton, but your stars do have to step up and perform. They're under enormous pressure here. But again, I hate to take away from Edmonton. I want to keep maintaining that Florida being unbelievable is the story. And Ross, they've done this the whole playoff. They shut down all the Ranger big boys to get here. They did it to Tampa Bay. They did it to Boston in the first round. So this is not something new. This is not a trend. This is how the Florida Panthers play hockey. Man, they look good.
Talking with Steve Levy, ESPN NHL studio host, play-by-play, Sports Center anchor, calls football games as well. Steve, I'm guessing there's a lot of people that feel the way I do. I'm just a guy from Pennsylvania, right, outside of Philly. I really wanted the Canadian team to win. Like, I wanted that for the people of Edmonton. I wanted that for the country. And I feel like the people in South Florida, I mean, come on, hockey, South Florida, and maybe you'll tell me, hey, Ross, it's cool. It's creating a lot of cool hockey fans in South Florida, and I'm cool with that. I'm down with that. I'm trying to spread football all over the globe. So if we're doing that, let's spread hockey to South Florida. I get that, but I just know it means more to the people in Edmonton than it does the people in Miami. I know it does.
Listen, there's no getting around that. I mean, and the Panther fans have been all over me and my coverage when we talk about stuff like that. The building's not as loud. The tickets are easier to come by. I mean, you cannot argue that. In fact, I even said, I referenced the old SEC line, right? That it just means more, right? And so, and Mark Messier, who's from Edmonton, and PK Subban are shaking their heads like, yeah, like all you have to do is be in the building up here for the Canadian national anthem, and it's wild, right? And the game hasn't even started yet. So it's special. We have not had a Canadian team win in 31 years since Montreal beat Barry Melrose, my guy, and Wayne Gretzky's LA Kings. And so it's been forever. It's truly, an international sport. And the Canadian teams have had good teams. They've come really close. The Winnipeg Jets were terrific this year. The Maple Leafs always have these great regular seasons and, can't get out of the first or second round. And so Edmonton finally powers through, and it does seem like they're going to go out, here with a whimper. And again, listen, Florida has great experience now. They went to the Cup final last year. They lost the first 2 games in Vegas, came home and won a game. And so I think they were set up nicely. Paul Maurice, their head coach, said, hey, we're not going to let that happen to us. That was us last year. And I think they've used the experience of the Stanley Cup final to help them this year. And listen, the Panthers have been around. The Panthers aren't like Vegas. They haven't been in the league 7 years. The Panthers have been around 30, 35 years. Yeah, I think 35 years now or so. And they haven't won the Stanley Cup yet. So they're certainly entitled for their shot. They're getting it right now.
Steve, there isn't some reason why the Canadian teams haven't won it, right? It's not like a financial thing. It's not like there's nothing you can put a finger on, can you?
I don't think it's the dollar figure. I think all the NHL contracts are based in U.S. dollars, regardless of where you are. Listen, some players don't want to play in some of these markets for a variety of reasons. Okay, it's not all the same reason. I know some players don't want to play in Montreal and Toronto. You want to talk about the hotbeds, right? The pressure cookers, where the media is on you, and you can't go anywhere. You can't go to a Tim Hortons and get a cup of coffee. Ottawa's small market, maybe a little sleepy there. Buildings out in the suburbs, like that kind of thing. And in these markets where Edmonton and Calgary, they're not these major metropolises, but you're under the microscope, right? I mean, there are videos of Connor McDavid just trying to go to a Packy and then buy a case of beer, and they're all over him. Like, he's got to bring protection everywhere with him, security and stuff. So I think so. And that's a lot of American players. We saw with Matthew Tkachuk, who's really the face of Florida Panthers. He wanted out of Calgary for whatever reason. And he's He's now the face of the Florida Panthers. He's changed everything about that franchise. We'll see what happens with his brother, who's in Ottawa, like I mentioned. And other players, they want to be in Anaheim. And then and they could have a nice life and live in Southern California. You play hockey and you're kind of left alone outside of the rink. So I think it's a variety of reasons. I don't think it's necessarily about the cash, but it is odd. It is odd. You got 7 franchises up in Canada. It's been 31 years.
Yeah, that's wild. That's good context, though. That's what I was looking for. Last question, Steve. We had Darren Ravel on earlier. We're talking about this Joey Chestnut versus Kobayashi eating contest. Yeah. So I was asking the Danettes if there was one food, like if your life depended on an eating contest, what food do you think you would fare the best at compared to other people?
All right, so I'll give you one. It's going to sound awful. It's going to be terrible. I can destroy stone crabs.
Okay.
Right? So now listen, they're little and they're hard to get out of the shell too, which speaks to my skill in that aspect, where I might be able to get more than the next guy. But you sit me down at Joe's Stone Crabs with some of that mustard sauce, man, and I can go to town for a long time. I feel pretty good about my chances.
That's awesome. Somebody hit me up on social media and said shrimp and cocktail sauce. So usually you don't hear people going seafood, but I like it.
Well, I wanted to give you something different too. I like it. With chicken wings too, but I'm not going to win any.
These people all saying wings or pizza. It's like, yeah, great story. Nobody's ever thought of that one before. I'm sure nobody. Exactly. Hey, Mannix, I'm sure nobody else can eat a bunch of pizza. I mean, you got to think about how it compares to other people. Have some strategy here. Your life depends on it.
Right.
Anyway.
Now, listen, the other caveat there is for Joe's Stone Crabs, like, I can't be paying the bill either, okay? That's got to be on the Dan Patrick show if I'm going to win that contest.
Well, you won't have to pay the bill now. Just clip this video and send it to him for the next time you go there. I think you'll be all set. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah. All right, Ross. Be well. Say hi to the boys for me, Fritzy, and everybody there.
I will. They said hello as well. Steve Levy does a terrific job there for ESPN, host of ESPN's NHL studio show, The Point, and intermissions throughout the Stanley Cup Final, which might end tomorrow night. Game 4 on Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern on ABC ESPN+. I'm calling it right now. The Oilers are winning that game. Bam.
All right.
It's my first hockey prediction of all time.
Bam.
I think that I just want everybody in Edmonton and Canada to remember this. When the Oilers get the job done Saturday night, it'll be because I predicted it would happen. And if they don't, no one will remember at all because I said it Friday morning, and it'll be Saturday, and then Sunday we'll have the U.S. Open and Father's Day, and next thing you know, it'll be Monday.